lives or dies not on the spectacle of its battles, but on the emotional investment we have in the people fighting them. This is something House of the Dragon has understood from its very first episode, and the teaser for Season 3 makes it absolutely clear that the character work is not being sacrificed on the altar of larger set pieces. If anything, the emotional stakes feel higher and more personal in this teaser than they have at any previous point in the show, which is remarkable given how much has already been lost by everyone involved. Rhaenyra Targaryen is the gravitational center of this entire story, and the teaser treats her accordingly. What we see of her character in these glimpses is a woman who has completed a fundamental transformation that began when she first understood the true cost of the game she was playing. The Rhaenyra of Season 1 believed, perhaps naively, that right and justice would eventually prevail, that her father's acknowledgement of her claim, her own intelligence and determination, would be enough to secure what was hers. The Rhaenyra of Season 2 began to understand that belief was a luxury she could no longer afford. The Rhaenyra that the teaser is showing us for Season 3 has moved entirely beyond that. She is not fighting for justice anymore in any simple sense. She is fighting because stopping means death, and because the people who believed in her deserve a queen who does not break. That is a much harder and lonelier place to fight from, and the performance in the brief clips the teaser shows us carries all of that weight with devastating effect. Then there is Aemond Targaryen, who might be the most complex and compelling antagonist the show has produced. Aemond is not a villain in the simple sense of the word. He is a man who was damaged very early, who built himself into something terrifying in response to that damage, and who has now become genuinely dangerous in ways that even his own family cannot fully control. His loyalty to the green cause is real, but it is tangled slightly apart from other characters, always in harsher light, always with that particular quality of stillness that reads as suppressed violence, tells you everything about where his arc is headed. Alicent Hightower is perhaps the character whose Season 3 journey is the most emotionally complex, because Alicent is the architect of everything that has gone wrong. She made choices years ago based on a conviction that she was protecting her children and serving the realm, and she was not entirely wrong to believe those things, but she was not entirely right either, and the consequences of those choices have grown so far beyond what she could have anticipated that there is a genuine question about whether Alicent can even recognize the world she helped create anymore. The teaser hints at an Alicent who is grappling with something that looks very much like the beginning of real doubt, not the performative doubt of someone who wants to be seen as thoughtful, but the genuine, terrifying doubt of someone who is starting to understand what they have done. Whether that doubt translates into action or gets psychological purgatory, haunted by things he had done and things he had refused to do. His relationship with Rhaenyra, always the most combustible and complicated dynamic on the show, was strained nearly to breaking point by revelations and decisions that cut at the heart of whatever trust existed between them. The Daemon the teaser appears to be showing us for Season 3 feels like a man who has come through that purgatory and emerged as something more singular and more dangerous than before. The question of where his loyalty ultimately lies, to Rhaenyra, to his own ambition, to some private vision of what the Targaryen dynasty should be, is going to be answered in Season 3. And based on what the teaser is suggesting, that answer is not going to be simple or comfortable for anyone. This is the section where we slow everything down, because the teaser for Season 3 is absolutely packed with visual details that reward careful attention, and most of them flew past audiences on the first watch because the overall spectacle is so overwhelming that your brain struggles to process everything at once. But when you go back and examine specific shots, specific image choices, specific framing decisions, a much more detailed picture of what Season 3 is building emerges, and it is more ambitious than even the most enthusiastic predictions suggested. The first detail worth examining closely is the geography of destruction that the teaser is presenting. This is a show that has always been very careful about its locations. Every setting tells you something about the power dynamics of the scene being played in it. The Red Keep, Dragonstone, Driftmark, King's Landing, these are not just backdrops. They are characters in themselves, and the way the teaser uses them tells you an enormous amount about how the political and military situation has evolved. What is particularly striking is that several locations that appeared relatively stable and secure in previous seasons appear in the teaser in states of significant damage or tension. The implication is that the war has moved in ways that neither side fully controlled or anticipated, that the front lines have shifted, that places once considered safe are no longer safe, and that the geography of power in Westeros is being rewritten in real time by the conflict. The second detail that rewards attention is the clothing and costuming. This show has always used costume design as a form of character communication, and Season 3 is no exception. Pay close attention to how specific characters are dressed in the teaser compared to how they appeared in previous seasons. There are characters who appear to have stripped away certain elements of their established visual identity, the crowns, the ceremonial elements, the markers of station that communicate authority in court settings, and replaced them with something more functional, more martial, more raw. That is not an accident. Characters who shed the visual markers of their courtly roles and adopt more stripped-down appearances are characters who have accepted that the Game of Thrones as a political performance is over, and what remains is something much more brutal and direct. The third detail is in the music, or more specifically, in the moments where the music drops out entirely. The teaser's score is powerful and well-constructed, building tension in the expected ways. But there are 2 or 3 specific moments where the music cuts to silence unexpectedly, and those silences are placed over particular images very deliberately. Silence in film scoring is not the absence of craft. It's a different kind of craft, used to direct your attention with extreme precision to whatever image is on screen during that silence. The images the teaser chooses to score with silence rather than music are the most important images in the entire teaser, and they are the ones that tell you the most directly about what Season 3 considers its emotional and narrative center of gravity. The fourth detail involves the use of fire as a visual symbol throughout the teaser, beyond just the obvious dragon fire sequences. Fire appears repeatedly in smaller, more intimate contexts: candles, torches, hearth fires, and in each case, it is used in a way that draws a visual parallel between the intimacy of small fires and the devastation of the large ones. This is a show that has always been interested in the relationship between private grief and public catastrophe, between personal decisions made in quiet rooms and the massive consequences those decisions unleash on the world. The deliberate visual rhyming between small personal fires and massive apocalyptic ones is the teaser communicating that theme in pure visual language, reminding you that everything burning at scale began as something small and personal and deeply human. The fifth detail, and this is the one that I think is most significant for what it tells us about how Season 3 ends rather than begins, is a compositional choice repeated several times in the teaser. There are multiple shots where a character is framed alone, in a wide shot, with an enormous amount of empty space around them. In visual storytelling, this kind of framing communicates isolation, loss, and finality. It's how you frame someone who has arrived at an ending. The fact that the teaser uses this framing for more than one character, and for characters on both sides of the conflict, suggests that Season 3 is going to deliver conclusions, real, permanent, irreversible conclusions to multiple character arcs. The Dance of the Dragons in the source material is a conflict with no comfortable ending for anyone, and the teaser appears to be preparing the audience for a season that does not flinch from that reality. Everything we have discussed, the tonal shift, the dragon escalation, the character depth, the hidden details, all of it points to a single conclusion. Season 3 of House of the Dragon has the potential to be not just the best season this show has produced, but one of the most significant seasons of prestige television in the entire history of this franchise, possibly in the history of this genre. That is an enormous claim, and I do not make it casually, but the evidence the teaser provides supports it with a level of consistency that is genuinely striking. Let's talk about what specifically needs to land for season 3. The teaser is only 2 minutes long, but those 2 minutes just broke the entire internet. And after watching it frame by frame, I can tell you that what is coming in season 3 is going to make everything we have seen so far look like a warm-up act. The Dance of the Dragons is no longer a political chess game. It has become a full-scale war, and the teaser does not hide that anymore. Blood, fire, betrayal, and a dragon so massive it made my jaw drop. We are going to break all of it down right now, because there are details hidden in this teaser that most people completely missed on their first watch. So if you thought season 2 was intense, buckle in, because season 3 is about to rewrite everything. The very first thing you notice when this teaser begins is the silence. There is no dramatic music slamming into your ears right away. There is no voiceover immediately telling you what to feel. The showrunners made a deliberate choice to open this teaser in near complete quiet, and that choice tells you everything about where season 3 is headed. This is no longer a show about whispered threats in throne rooms. The silence at the start of this teaser is the silence before a storm that has already started destroying everything in its path. Season 1 was about the slow poison of succession politics. We watched Viserys crumble. We watched Alicent and Rhaenyra drift from friendship into bitter enemies over the course of years and decades. The tension was built through conversations, through glances, through letters and small betrayals. Season 2 escalated things dramatically. We saw the first real bloodshed. We saw dragon fighting dragon for the first time in over a century of Westerosi history. But even then, both sides were still holding something back. There was still hesitation. There was still a part of every major character that hoped, maybe foolishly, that a deal could be reached, that the killing could stop before it consumed everything. The teaser for season 3 makes absolutely clear that hope is gone. Whatever fragile restraint existed on both sides has been completely burned away, and the visual language of the teaser reflects that with brutal precision. The color palette has shifted. Gone are the warm amber tones of the Red Keep corridors, those long golden halls that made even treachery look beautiful. In their place, the teaser is dominated by cold blues, harsh grays, and deep reds that feel less like royalty and more like open wounds. The cinematography itself is telling you that the world of this show has fundamentally changed. The elegance is over. What remains is war in its rawest form. What makes this tonal shift so significant is what it means for the characters we have followed through 2 seasons. These are not abstract political figures moving pieces on a map. These are people we have watched grow, suffer, love, and lose. And now the teaser is showing us versions of those same people who have been hollowed out and rebuilt by grief and violence. Rhaenyra is no longer the passionate, defiant young woman fighting for her birthright. The woman we see glimpses of in this teaser carries something much heavier behind her eyes. She has watched people she loved die. She has made decisions that cost lives. And now she has to keep going anyway, because stopping means surrendering everything. And surrendering means death, not just for her, but for everyone who ever believed in her claim. On the other side, the Greens, Alicent, Aegon, Aemond, they too have passed a point of no return. The teaser gives us enough visual information to understand that the political unity of the Green faction, which was always more fragile than it appeared, is under extraordinary pressure. Aegon, as king, has never been a stable foundation. He is impulsive, damaged, and driven by desires that have nothing to do with ruling well. Aemond is the true military force behind the Green cause, but Aemond's ruthlessness and his barely concealed contempt for his brother create a tension within their own camp that is just as dangerous as the enemy outside their walls. And Alicent, the woman who engineered this entire coup, who told herself she was doing the right thing, is now watching the consequences of her choices play out in ways she never allowed herself to imagine. The teaser does not spell any of this out in dialogue. It does not need to. The visual storytelling is doing all the heavy lifting, and the fact that the creative team trusts its audience enough to communicate all of this through imagery and tone rather than exposition is one of the most encouraging signs we could have gotten. This is a show that has matured along with its story. Season 3 is going in with complete confidence, and the teaser is the proof. That silence at the beginning is not emptiness. It is the held breath of an entire world standing on the edge of something that cannot be undone. And by the end of this teaser, you understand exactly how far the fall is going to be. Let's talk about the dragons, because this is where the teaser does something genuinely spectacular and also something genuinely terrifying in equal measure. Dragon logistics have always been the backbone of this conflict. Every military calculation in the Dance of the Dragons comes back to the same question: who has more dragons, who can ride them, and what are those riders willing to do? Season 2 ended with the dragon seeds, the revelation that dragon riding is not strictly limited to Targaryens with established bonds, and that Rhaenyra's side might be able to field a much larger air force than anyone thought possible. Season 3 picks up that thread and pulls it into something far more explosive. The teaser shows us dragon fire on a scale that we genuinely have not seen before in this show. And I want to be very specific about this, because the scale matters enormously to what it tells us about the battles ahead. In previous seasons, dragon fire was used in targeted, almost surgical ways, burning a specific target, devastating a specific location. What the teaser is presenting looks fundamentally different. The fire in this teaser is not surgical. It is overwhelming. It covers entire horizons. It turns night into a terrible burning daylight. This is not one dragon making a point. This is multiple dragons operating in coordinated devastation, and that shift in scale represents a terrifying escalation in what this war is willing to become. The dragons themselves look different in Season 3 as well, and this is something the visual effects team clearly worked hard on. There is a weight and a physicality to the dragons in this teaser that feels more grounded than ever before. When they move, you feel it. When they breathe fire, you feel the heat through the screen. The creative decision to make the dragons feel more physically real, more enormous, more genuinely dangerous is a choice that pays enormous dividends when you consider what Season 3 is building toward. These are not fantasy creatures in a fantasy world. They are weapons of mass destruction attached to traumatized, grieving, furious human beings. And the combination of that much power with that much emotional damage is exactly as catastrophic as it sounds. Now, there is a specific dragon moment in this teaser that I cannot stop thinking about, and it involves scale in a way that reframes everything. Without getting into specifics that might involve unconfirmed details, the teaser gives us a shot of a dragon that appears significantly larger than anything we have seen before in either this show or its predecessor. Size matters with dragons. In the lore of this world, a larger dragon is not just more impressive, it is categorically more powerful, more dangerous, and more capable of changing the outcome of battles that would otherwise be decided differently. If the teaser is giving us our first real look at one of the truly massive dragons of Targaryen history, that is not a visual flex. That is a promise that the air battles of Season 3 are going to operate on a completely different level than anything the show has attempted before. What is also fascinating about the dragon content in this teaser is what it implies about the human element, the riders. Dragon riding in this world is not just a skill, it's a relationship, an almost spiritual bond between rider and creature that takes time, trust, and something that might be described as shared identity to develop. The dragon seeds introduced at the end of Season 2 have that raw potential, but potential is not the same as a trained, bonded war dragon and rider operating as a unified force. Season 3 is going to have to spend time developing those relationships as the war refuses to slow down and wait for anyone to be ready. The tension between urgency and necessity, between what the war demands and what the writers are actually capable of giving, is going to generate some of the most compelling dramatic material the show has produced. And the teaser, in its brief flashes of dragon imagery, is already planting the seeds of that conflict in ways that reward close attention. The air war in season 3 is going to be the defining spectacle of this show's entire run. The teaser knows it. Every dragon-related image in those 2 minutes is crafted to build anticipation for something genuinely unprecedented in prestige television, and it works. By the time the teaser cuts away from its biggest dragon sequence, you're not thinking about budgets or visual effects pipelines. You're thinking about what it would actually feel like to stand on the ground beneath that much fire, looking up at creatures that ancient and that powerful, knowing that the people directing them were once just people arguing about a throne.